It's about someone at whose presence in our boat the winds calm down. The story is about Jesus as God's champion against chaos for us as well as them. But we need to be clear on what the story is saying, on just how Jesus is our champion. Nowhere does the story say that Jesus has finally conquered chaos, or that the battle is over. Nowhere does the story say that. The story is not about how Jesus destroys chaos and fixes it up so that we can live happily ever after. Only as a kind of afterword, when the action's all over, does it say the wind calm down. And that's consistent with the Bible's overall understanding about how God is what Christian theology calls creator. The Hebrew of the Bible's first verse does not really say, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That translation was imposed on the Hebrew by a later philosophical understanding of God. What the Hebrew says, as the New Revised Standard Version puts it, is, in the beginning when God created the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the face of the deep. It's saying chaos was there. More literally, without the Revised Standard Version's nod to what I would call post-biblical philosophy, more literally we could translate it, at the beginning of God's shaping of the heavens and the earth was a formless void, and darkness covered the waters of chaos. For the Bible, chaos existed and continues to exist, and God's struggle to bring life and order out of chaos is not yet completely finished. Imagery conveying the reality of that struggle persists throughout the Bible, particularly in the poetry of the Psalms, where again and again it talks about the waters threatening to overwhelm me, and oh God, why don't you do something about it? All that is the imagery of today's gospel story, which sees God present to the disciples in Jesus, continuing the battle with chaos on their behalf. What that means to me theologically is that the basis of biblical religion is not some theoretical solution of the theoretical issue of whether there is a transcendent, omnipotent God. Biblical religion originates in our existential human struggles with chaos. It has to do with our finding a presence with us in those struggles, a presence that understands and supports us and is working for good. Biblical religion has to do with, as still very much born on and surrounded by chaos, it has to do with our finding ourselves drawn up into a boat with others. It has to do with that understanding and with supporting and healing and a calming presence in Jesus. Christian theology is the discipline of trying to figure all that out. It is not the abstract discipline of theorizing about the existence of God. Several years ago back, a man named James Kelly wrote a book entitled Skeptic in the House of God. He described how, though honesty demanded he remain a theoretical atheist, he found himself drawn into the life and worship and service to others of St. Mark's Episcopal Church on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. As Kelly put it, although his theoretical agnosticism remained, he had found a place of vibrant community, honest inquiry, and support over the hard places of life. To put it in terms of today's story, James Kelly discovered that solving the theoretical theism or atheism or agnosticism issue was not a prerequisite to salvation. Indeed, you might very well sink while you were dealing with all that. However you interpreted him theoretically, Jesus reached out to you, lifted you from chaos, raging waters, included you in the boat with the others, and shared your vulnerability and supported you in it. That's what today's gospel is about. So that's today's take on the good news about Jesus. And what's the particular way, is the question, what's the particular way in which chaos is threatening to overwhelm you or me this morning? Is it cancer in yourself or in someone you love? Is it the coming apart of a relationship? Is it the loss of a job? Is it irrational, uncontrollable depression and anxiety? Is it despair and disillusionment at the out-of-control greed and insensitivity to human need in the centers of economic and political power? However chaos threatens to overwhelm you or me, the good news is that precisely chaos is the pathway Jesus takes. He comes walking to us over the waters. Whatever weapon chaos has unleashed against you or me, the good news is that Jesus comes walking across the waters of chaos, reaches out his hand, catches us, and takes us into the boat with him and with those others like us. A story like this says all that in a way abstract doctrines and pious exhortations simply cannot say it. We're invited this morning to let this story do that for us. Early in the morning, Jesus came walking toward us on the sea. That's what the story wants to be about. And you know, stories have first cousins called sacraments. Sacraments also do the job in a way abstract doctrine and pious exhortations cannot. Such a sacrament is this Eucharist in which we are now engaged. Jesus is in this Eucharist, reaching out to lift us into the boat, which will remain precariously perched on chaos, but which Jesus promises will finally weather the storm. So welcome. May this Eucharist be a sacrament like that for you and for me. Amen.